smoking too, sipping and roasting. Yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne.
Cheers, y'all.
That sounds like a party just about to begin, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally
Hi, Mom.
as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. We are at show number 408 of our program today. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And the reason I mentioned the number of the show is I accidentally wrote 408 on my notes last week, and I think I may have said it was number 408. Really, it was number 407.
I think you actually did that with 407 the week before, and
I may
corrected
have.
it
Yeah.
last week.
Math has always been difficult for me, which is why I rely on you to do the heavy lifting when it comes
Well, if
to
you take 408 and you
408.
divide it, just and then carry the 4 times 3, that is exactly halfway to 500.
Okay, so it's good to know that we're halfway there. It's good. We welcome back to the show today one of our favorite guests and good friend, Mr. Marc Borel. He is our smoking and toasting wine expert, and I have to say, Marc, you look very chill.
I am.
You do.
See all these gray hairs on my face?
I like the
What
beard.
the hell?
The beard. I like the. Speaking of beard, by the way, Terry, do me a favor. Take your headphones off and walk over here because you need to be in the camera shot. Because
Well, wait a second. Nobody knew what I looked like before.
well,
so.
but yeah, I can describe it in 2 words: jihadist beard.
Oh,
And
Hey, it was more of an Uncle Jesse style. I feel like, or
we've never had.
I think Uncle Jesse might be taking it a bit far.
We've never had a producer on the show who would drop cultural pop references the way that Terry does. Yeah, the Uncle Jesse reference. You gotta love that. But anyway, no, he's trimmed up nice and neat this week.
I went to the barber and said, let's go ahead and take a lot off. And he went all the way.
It's amazing. See, I'll never forget because I used to have hair like down the middle of my back, right? And I'll never forget that day that I looked in the mirror and said, I don't think I can pull this off anymore. And I went to a hair salon in Chicago, and they cut it off, and it was kind of a traumatic experience.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I did that
You
too.
feel lighter. And
You do. You feel like. In fact, it was weird because for weeks I did the you know how they say when someone like loses a limb in an accident or combat or something like that they have phantom limb syndrome that they feel like it's still there. I was constantly doing this.
Oh, yeah.
And there was nothing to do that with.
I've been doing this for the weekend. I've been
yeah.
trying to
Terry's-
grab my
Terry's
beard.
doing
Or when you
this
go to
all
scratch your hair, scratch your head, you do it like this because you're like, I don't want to mess up my ponytail.
That's
But you
right.
don't have one anymore.
Yeah, no, I have been reaching for it all
I had
weekend.
a buddy of mine years ago, and he played kind of in a metal band, and he had this really pointy a goatee.
Yeah.
And it looked great on him. Like he just looked devilish, right?
He
It was
had it,
perfect. And one day I walked into the bar where he works, and I was like, oh no, what happened? And he goes, I just thought I'd try something different. This dude had no chin. No chin.
And that's something that
It was the strangest
never
thing.
notice about people who have no chin, who have beards, and then they shave them. It's like, oh, wow, that worked for a guy. Same thing. He had the nice full beard. Then one day he walks in and he shaved it. I'm like, he has no chin. What happened?
Like his chin was almost an innie.
I now understand the beard thing. Totally.
some people that just need to have a beard.
That's right.
And
That's
it's
right.
it was so different. I saw the pictures we took at the Whiskey Social
Yeah.
after this, and I was
Yeah.
just like, oh,
Yeah. See?
See, and I don't need a beard because I don't have a chin. I need
Yeah.
a beard because I probably have more than one.
Yeah.
that's right. See,
That happens. Well, today's show number 408. Marc Borel is our guest, and as is one of the reasons. I'll just total transparency here that Marc is one of our favorite guests is because he brings wine.
He brings wine.
and he always never fails to bring wine. And today he's brought some wines that we can talk about for the holidays, and we'll be sampling those.
Yeah,
And
you're in
we're-
for a treat today. This is good.
So we're looking forward to
Exciting.
that with great excitement. Also on today's program, we're going to be trying a little Four Roses, and this is not just the regular Four Roses, but this is their small batch, and it's not just the regular small batch; it's the small batch select.
Select,
which I was telling Mark before the show, it's about $10 more special than the regular small batch. So we'll be excited to break into that because we like
It's
Four
usually
Roses here on the
substantially
program.
overproof too, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I have not looked at the proof on this. Let's take a look. It is 52% alcohol by volume,
Yeah, buddy.
104 proof.
It's all right. See?
Wow.
Kinda
Good
like
morning.
that. We'll tell you about some cigars to watch for on the program today.
Not just for breakfast. anymore.
That's right. We will also talk about the new law that is threatening all cigar sales in California. So we'll get to that.
They still sell cigars in California?
I know. I was surprised. I was surprised to find that they
in
do. but
California, where you can smoke anywhere you want as long as it's not inside or outside?
That's exactly right. That's what I'm getting at. Apparently, that was not enough.
That's not enough.
Yeah, and they needed to go a step further out there in Cali. So we'll tell you about that. Also, we'll be bringing you the two most popular segments on the show. One, of course, is the drinking fact, and our drinking fact teaser headline for today is, "Gee, your hair smells like vodka."
I had $1 for every time.
And then our drinking news teaser headline. This will come up later in the second hour of the program. Drinking news. Our teaser headline for that is, "This web address can't be right." So we'll get to all of that coming up. Plus, we'll talk about some cigars, and then we'll do the one of our favorite things here on the show. It's become kind of a favorite. Is where we pour a beverage and we don't tell anybody what it is. The only person that knows is the person what brung it, and that would be me today. I have brought the beverage of mystery. So Terry, if you would. The beverage of mystery. So we'll see what you guys think of today's beverage of mystery, or BOMB for short.
Put a little shiver up your spine, huh?
Yeah. The beverage of mystery music, by the way, is called "The Visitor" and is by Shane Ivers. You can find him at Chosic, CHOSIC.com for his various compositions. If you're like putting together a cool TikTok and want something you can use, music you can use on it, he's got a bunch of that.
It's
stuff,
kind of a
so.
ginger ale kind of vibe to it, doesn't it?
It kind of does. It has an on the nose, a little citrusy, like a ginger ale.
It's a light nose.
Yeah. It's not hugely fragrant on the nose.
Lemon meringue.
It does something.
Ooh. Yeah,
What
I
do
get
you-
that.
That first sip is striking.
Yeah, it kind of is. You have to almost brace yourself for it.
It gives you the same effect as eating a Sour Patch Kid.
Yes, 100%.
Your mouth, yeah.
Or
Citric acid.
Or do you ever have those sweet
That's
tarts
fake,
that are chewy?
right?
Oh, yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that
Chewy
too.
sweet taste.
Then that's my point. It's fake fruit to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Fake fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you get a lot of that in seltzers, but I will tell you, this is not a seltzer.
I'm trying to acclimate my mouth to how tart this is.
I thought maybe cider,
Yeah.
and then I didn't.
It's like a hard
it's-
lemonade. It's got to be a hard lemonade.
Well, Mark, your first instincts were right. Now for the portion
Okay.
of the program we call, "Is that a beverage of mystery can in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?"
Woo!
Here's the reveal. We are
Oh, it is a
drinking
cider.
City Orchard Cider Fresca.
Okay.
This
Wow.
is tart. The more I drink it, the easier it is on the palate. But at
Yeah.
first, boy, it was.
That's
There's
a
a-
lime on the
striking.
front.
There's a
It's
lime on the
cider.
Yeah,
label,
there's the
but
lime on the label.
I
yes.
get more lemon than lime for sure.
I agree, and I thought I was excited about this because as a kid I loved Fresca.
Yeah.
The actual it was the only like sugar-free beverage I liked because Tab was like, ugh, you know, and still is.
How
By the
can
way, they still
something-
make it.
How can something without sugar be so sticky?
Yeah, right. But Fresca I liked. It was a little jarring the way this is. You know, you brace yourself to that first sip. But unfortunately, I was hoping this would be a cider that tastes like Fresca, and I'm not sure that they.
Now, my
Fresca,
wife
by
and
the
I
way.
went by City Orchard one day, and we sat there and hung out with the bartenders. There wasn't a whole lot of people in there. It's about four groups of people in there. Most of them were talking to each other, so we're sitting there chatting with the bartenders, and I got all their information. We're all excited to have them on the show. And every time I sent an email, it came back saying this person doesn't exist. So I don't know if they don't work there anymore.
Yeah.
I've gone through that with him before, yes.
Yeah. But
I think this would make a great cantarita.
yeah.
Put some tequila in here. Maybe this.
Oh, I like that idea.
See, I like where your head's at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will mention, by the way, that Fresca is actually a word. It's not just a brand name. So
It's fresh.
Yeah, exactly. And so it is kind of like cider, lime, fresh. But I get the sort of imitation fruit thing that you were talking about. I think this is better than many beverages
I
in
have to
Mystery
tell you,
we've
though,
had.
the more I sip on it, the more I kind of am getting into it, you know?
Yeah.
A little bit like a Jack in the Box taco can be good sometimes.
A Jack in the Box taco can be good all the time. So I don't know.
Yes. But I will say this.
This has a little bit of a decadent. What would my sister would call it? Craptastic
Yeah.
kind of thing going on.
But I feel like this is something you could have many of because I can't imagine there's a lot of booze in here.
No, this is probably coming in at 4%.
Yeah.
Like
10 fluid ounces and 6% alcohol by volume.
Well,
but it comes in a skinny can, so you feel like you're
Right. So
doing something
this
good
is
for
like,
yourself.
I will say this.
that's why it looks good in your pocket.
It beats a lot of other. It beats a lot of other skinny can items, like say Michelob Ultra, because this has actual flavor. So
It does have flavor,
there
yes.
you go.
yeah. So, I think it's kind of interesting.
Ooh,
like
coconut rum.
a
little
coconut rum.
floater of coconut rum in this thing.
Oh yeah.
See, that's why
Okay.
it's always so fun to have Mark on because he can what's the opposite of deconstruct? He can construct.
I would also say
I can
too,
make things taste better.
I'm thinking,
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
thinking a little bit of science on this. If this was poured over ice, just
Yeah.
that tiny bit of dilution might take the edge off of the.
Plus, I think the colder the
Tartness,
better on things like this
Always.
cider. Yeah.
But I actually now that I keep sipping on it, I'm actually kind of liking it. So.
Well, again, it definitely is better than many of the beverages mystery we've
It's
had
not
on the show.
perfect, but it's not bad.
It's
you
not
know?
perfect, but
Yeah.
it's not Malort.
Yeah.
So it has that
I'm
going for it.
Sad I missed that one.
I have a little bit of Malort left at the house.
Well, maybe next time Mark is on, you
And I
can.
have, but Mark,
What did I do?
I have barrel aged Malort.
Of course you do, as one does.
It says on the little shield, it says
Yeah.
BAM. Bam.
Yeah, barrel aged
Barrel
Malort.
aged Malort.
You gotta love it. Well,
2020.
I heard just thinking about it.
yeah, we have much to look forward to. By the way, we'll try to bring you today if we have time and we don't talk too much about people getting their haircut.
Do we need to do an episode called "Things We Used to Drink in College"?
Oh, that would be fun.
Don't remind me of Zima.
And then they would all. Can you find a Zima? Does it exist
So
anymore?
much
I
I
don't.
thought it came back at some
It did,
point.
but I don't
Maybe
know
They
that
came back and then
still-
immediately went away.
Yeah. Well, I've just mentioned this on the
the
show
Jolly
before,
Ranchers.
but around the time Zima came out, I was in radio and I was doing this
Somebody's got to
regular.
be selling them on what's the
eBay?
eBay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Around the time Zima came out, I was in radio and I was doing this regular Saturday night club gig, right, where we'd broadcast live, and I would spin a little bit, and the DJ would from the club would spin a little bit, and we were on the microphone saying, "Come on down, we're down here, we're partying." It was always packed. But I remember when Zima came out, across a span of 3 weeks, when you looked out at the dance floor, nobody was holding cocktails and beers anymore. They were all dancing with a Zima in their hand, and then just as quickly, the Zimas went away. All right, we got a lot to do, a lot to talk about, including checking in with Ian if he's had anything interesting to smoke this week. We'll do that coming up next, and we have wines to taste, which I'm really excited about. Marc Borel is our guest. It's Smoking and Toasting. We will be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars.
Love
We are
those
glad to
things.
have you. Our guest is Marc Borel. We're going to be getting to some wines very soon. We'll be getting to Ian's cigar review here in a moment. But first,
And now it's time for another Smoking and Toasting Drinking Fact.
We actually would have run out of drinking facts a long time ago, but we loved that fanfare so much that I had to go and just scrounge the web for drinking facts. So that fanfare makes it all worthwhile. Our drinking fact for today
The
is
show just got immensely better.
it did. Anytime we add cheesy music, it improves the show dramatically.
Love
So,
it.
our drinking fact for today: if you need to eliminate odors from your clothing, try spraying your clothing with vodka. It works. But be careful, though, because too much might actually stain your garment. And also, be careful not to be wearing said garment if you get pulled over. It's like, no, officer, I was just trying to get my sweater to smell better, I swear. So, yeah, there you go. Today's indisputable truth.
The difference between the vodka that I spray on my shirt and the vodka that's usually on my shirt is one didn't go inside before it came back out.
One was applied from out here, one kind of dripped down from here. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Today's drinking facts. And by the way, to the best of our knowledge, these drinking facts are actually true. These are not like made up just.
I think I've seen that before.
You should keep a spray bottle of vodka around so you can,
I agree with spray bottle of vodka.
you know,
Well,
if
yeah.
things smell a little
It's kinda
bad,
like-
if your breath's a little bad.
What was that breath freshener that used to come in a little squirt bottle? And
Yeah.
Banaka.
Yeah, Banaka. That's
There you
right. I had a friend that was addicted to that stuff. He used it like my wife uses chapstick. You know, it's just like every 5 minutes. You know. All right. Well, Ian, I'm assuming you had the opportunity to smoke something interesting this week.
Boy, did I.
So tell us about it.
So, in lieu of my cigar that I usually review,
Oh.
I was wandering around the Renaissance Festival yesterday.
Oh. Were you on your annual search for the cloak of
I
inebriation?
was on my quest for the cloak of inebriation.
And did you find it?
Well,
Sounds like a Mel
not
Brooks
really.
movie.
It was. I wasn't really into the search yesterday. So.
Oh, okay. Well, it's important. You have to be dedicated to the quest.
Yeah, and I felt like there are people out there who are younger and probably fresher at this than I am, and
Yeah.
we'd let them have the cloak this year.
But you apparently smoked something interesting.
Yeah,
huh?
well, so I was wandering around and I thought, I'm not going to have time to grab a cigar tonight and all that other stuff. So I thought I'd talk about this. I have this beautiful Nording freehand pipe that I was smoking.
Oh, yes.
Which
We're
looks
going to
very
be doing
rustic.
a pipe show here in
Yes,
in about
and
a
I was
month,
kind
so-
of inspired by the fact that the pipe show has come up. So coming from the Briar Shop, or formerly known as the Briar Shop, now Winston's Cigar Lounge, which looks exactly like the Briar Shop but has more cigars in it. Than the previous time we were there, and it has all the same people too.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
like when I
good.
say it looks like it,
'Cause
really
there's
looks.
some real pipe experts. in
Yes,
there.
it really
Yeah.
looks like it. We got a show coming up here on the 9th. We're going to record it on the 9th, but it'll come out middle of the month.
Yeah.
We got a show coming up here that we're going to do there. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I have my Nording freehand because that looks, it looks Renaissance Festival.
Sure. Sure.
And I used an aromatic blend that they have there in one of their jars called the Accountant. It's one of my favorite pipe tobaccos there.
I've had the account.
I think it's a lane tobacco, and a lot of places will do this where they'll buy these bulk lane tobaccos, then they'll kind of give it their own names, and I'm suspecting it's one of those.
Okay.
But they call it the Accountant, and it smells amazing. This is an aromatic blend consisting of Virginia Black Cavendish with a couple other things blended in. The appearance, it's evenly shredded ribbons of gold. That's going to be the Virginia. The brown, that's going to be your English tobaccos, and then the Black Cavendish, little strips of black in there. The pre-light sniff on this: sweet chocolate, vanilla, and slightly fruity. I mean, I keep a
It's a very aromatic tobacco.
I keep a bag of this sitting on my desk, and I walk by it when I come from my kitchen to my living room.
Yeah.
And every time I walk by, I'm like, it smells so good. Because even in the Ziploc baggie closed up, you can smell it.
They call that potpourri, by the way.
It's so
That's
good.
what they call it.
So the initial light on this, the notes of vanilla, sweet fermented tobacco, bourbon, brownie batter, and raisin are all coming through.
Cool.
The retrohale is sweet vanilla with a toasted note. The first third is, I kind of did this like a pipe, like a cigar review, but it doesn't really work the same way because it's pipe. So the first third is flavor profile remains consistent with a satisfying dense smoke bursting with flavors asking to be made into smoke rings. I will tell you right away, like dense smoke rings happen. Prepares proposed pairing, Booker's or Stag Junior, something that has to be a chocolate bomb that's going to go along with this because
Nice, yeah.
nothing else is going to stand up to it, right? The flavor profile remains consistent throughout the second third of this. The third third of this had to swab out the stem and the stummel with an absorbent pipe cleaner and resume smoking. Flavors ramp up in intensity, and I get a slight bitter note that signals the end of the bowl. This is normal. This is not something
Right.
unexpected. Time to tap out the dottle and let my pipe rest. I don't know that I have a price to quality on it. It's not that it doesn't cost that much.
It's not that expensive.
per ounce.
No. Yeah.
And I used a bowl full, so I used probably 30 cents worth or 50 cents worth.
Is the accountant good for like a novice pipe smoker?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. There's not a lot of tongue bite to it or anything like that. It doesn't leave your mouth feeling like it's burnt or anything like
Right.
that. It's actually really pretty gentle overall. And it's beautiful aromatic.
And you
so
can find
everyone
it-
around you goes, that smells so good.
Yeah.
And starts talking about their grandfather.
People say that about pipe smoke more than they do about cigar smoke.
Yes, yes.
So there is both. All right, cool. We'll take a break. You smoked a cigar this week. I'll tell you about that coming up. Plus, Marc Borel leads us into wines for the holidays. All coming up at Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. It's show number 408, and we are excited to be joined by our resident wine expert, Mr. Marc Borel. We'll get to wine next, but first, let me tell you about what I smoked this week. It was a cigar that Ian gave me about a month or so ago, and it's been just long enough since then for me to forget what he said about it in his review, so I won't plagiarize him. We'll see if we got any of the same stuff. I do remember that he liked it, but that's about all that I can recall. So here we go with the H. Upmann Special Edition Barbier Robusto. Barbier
They did spell
or
it
Barbier.
funny, didn't they?
It's a German word. It's actually a German word. It means barber. And so because it's a barber pole type cigar, that's why. And barber pole means they use a couple of different leaves of different colors for the wrapper, and they wrap them kind of diagonally across the cigar,
they
and
look
it looks like a
beautiful.
barber
They
pole.
look-
So-
That makes
beautiful.
perfect sense.
yeah. Back in 1843, Hermann Dietrich Upmann came to Havana to work for an importing and exporting business. And the following year, he opened his own cigar factory. So I guess he must have done pretty good with the importing and exporting business. And
Right.
thought, I'm going to run my own cigar factory. The Upmann name carries on today, and the special edition Barbier came out just a few months ago. It uses two different Ecuadorian leaves to create the barber pole design, a Connecticut shade and a Sumatra leaf. And so what this does when you smoke the cigar, it the flavor kind of changes and morphs as it burns through the different parts of the wrapper
It also
leaf.
gives you a very unique flavor because you don't get the taste of just one tobacco leaf.
Right.
You're a lot of times getting a blend of those two things. Which
Exactly, which is not
makes it,
something
yeah,
you normally
interesting.
get. Right. So, a binder on this cigar is Indonesian. Fillers are from the Dominican Republic and Nicaragua, and a broadleaf from
so
a
far, you are spot on with my
a
review.
mystery location. So, I used a punch and checked out the pre-light aromas, a very mild hay/barnyard note and a sweetness that reminded me of walking in the door of a pastry shop and breathing in, but it wasn't quite possible to pin it down. I didn't go, oh, that's elephant ear, or that's, whatever. Anyway, I lit the foot of the special edition Barbier, and I got a little more of that pastry sweetness as soon as I took the first few puffs. A light pepper note joined in as I started to smoke, but it was quite a bit less prominent, I should say, than my usual smokes, because I smoke a lot of Nicaraguan cigars, so lots of pepper. I picked up a little nuttiness and some earth as the first third burned, and by the second third, it was even earthier than the first. Tea leaf, a charred wood note, and more creamy pastry rounded out the second third. I liked the pastry note, by the way. Final third brought me the pepper. More pepper, anyway, more prominently than the first two sections. And from there to the nub, it smoked more like a Nicaraguan cigar. There was a tiny hint of harshness, but it could have been just that I was puffing a little too hard. So construction was actually quite good, and I was a little worried about that because when I used my punch cutter to open up the head of the cigar, it was very tightly packed. Like I had to really press the punch. Took me a moment to even get a chunk out so I could start smoking. But the pleasant surprise was that it burned quite well. Which is, I think, even harder to achieve with the barber pole design. So I was impressed by that. Overall, a very enjoyable cigar, not mind-blowing, but very pleasant. At $9.50 for the Robusto, I will give it a hesitant 5, which is to say that I like the one I smoked a lot and feel like the price was worth it, but I don't think I would buy a full box of these at that price. Still, Barber Pole cigars are fun, and they also look like a tobacco candy cane, which is kind of cool. So maybe treat yourself.
Christmas.
Maybe treat yourself for the holiday.
Hang them on the tree.
Now, do you have your review? I'm just curious.
I have it
whether
up,
we were
and
even
actually,
close.
you and I had a little bit of a different experience.
I
here,
remember.
so-
I think I remember you really, really liked it.
So most of this, like even on the pre-lay, I used a punch and I had a tight draw to begin with, but then it opened up a little bit. But I got on the initial light, I got a little bit of intense pepper and sweet coffee, and then of course the earthy things. So we met up on a few flavors, but I got a lot of salted caramel in mine.
Maybe that's part of what I was describing as the pastry thing.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of pastry things. I also got a little bit of fruit going on. And that's a few of the things that I talked about. There was a woody taste that I really enjoyed that lingered for a while, kind of a spicy oak kind of thing. I had a perfect burn all the way through here, and the last bit of this got more chocolate and sweet coffee, followed by toast and woody notes is what I put in. Mine was $8.89. And I gave it an 8.
Oh wow! So well, at that price, I think I would have probably escalated that.
Right.
Escalated that because I was
it's almost 75 cents difference that you quoted on that. I'm assuming you looked up the price.
Yeah, I did because, like I said, I didn't buy this when you gave it to me.
This was so good that I went back and bought 2 more before I left the shop and gave you one.
That's right.
Like that's how much I enjoyed it.
Well, I'd see, and that's what I went into it thinking. But I was maybe my expectations were a little too high.
Well, I just thought for the bang for the buck on this one, I absolutely enjoyed it. Maybe it's a matter of smoking a few and averaging the flavors.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which I'm willing to do if you want to buy more.
Noted.
Clearly, we've talked about cigars for too long because I've noticed our wine expert, Marc Borel, has already begun sampling one of the wines. So are we starting with the bubbly?
We are starting with bubbles.
Okay, so
I can't come here and not have bubbles.
I am
That's
just
true.
the hugest. In fact, I think I like sparkling wine and champagne probably more than whites and reds. This is just, I would say at our house, we're more likely to have sparkling even than another style of wine. So
Same.
always a big fan. What bubbles did you bring us today, Mark?
So we brought champagne. And I feel that's important because it's the holidays. We're celebrating. We're amongst people.
You're going to do a lot of that type of celebration. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Immediately love this.
This is fantastic. So there's a few things that I want because I always bring bubbles, but I don't know if I've done a deep dive on champagne and what it is and what makes it different. Champagne comes from a specific area in France, just east of Paris.
Right. And if it comes
This
from
is the
somewhere
first
else,
time I think you've actually brought actual champagne. You've always brought
Right.
bubbles.
Some fun bubbles, right?
right. But if it comes from anywhere else other than that region, if the grapes are grown anywhere else other than there, it cannot be called champagne.
That's
Is that
correct. In France, they call it crémant, and there's different names for different things. But what makes champagne different than a lot of other things is the way it's made. It's the méthode champenoise or the méthode traditionnelle that they call it, right? And basically, what happens is they source 3 grapes in the Champagne region. 2 of them are red. One of them is white, and that's an important thing because we're going to have rosé, and I want to talk about why rosé is pink.
Right.
But 2 of these red grapes and 1 of these white grapes, and what they do is they make wine with it, not drinkable wine, but they do make wine, and then it gets blended in a manner depending on what the winemaker wants to do. It goes into the bottle and it ferments. It goes in the tank and then it ferments there. From there, it goes into the bottle. They add a little bit of what's called dosage, which is
It's a little bit of sugar.
It's a little bit of sugar, right? And you'll see words like brut or extra brut. This is the level. This is the amount of dosage that.
So is the dosage what makes it drier? Because I really like
Yes.
drier champagne. So I usually look for.
I just put a whole bunch of things together in my head.
Yeah.
Can I parse this out for a second?
Please.
So, coming from brewing beer, you'll put a little bit of sugar in the end if you're bottling it, because the beer goes into the bottle and it's not carbonated, and that's what adds the carbonation. So, what you're talking about is you put that in there and it gives you the carbonation because now the yeast is eating more of the
sugar.
the
And
sugar that you just put in.
poops carbon dioxide.
Right, and that's the byproduct.
And-
So a monk by the name of Dom Perignon is who came up with that.
I think I've heard that. name
You're
before.
such a name dropper.
How about that? But
friend.
you'll see on this bottle it says brut, and that's the amount of sugar that's been added, the sugared wine that's been added.
Is
It's
there
a
a
brute amount.
Yes.
Is there a regulation there? Like
There
it has
is.
to be a certain
so
amount.
in
to be
order for
brewed?
it to be called brut, it must be up to 12 grams per liter
Okay.
of the sugared stuff. Now, a lot of brut will use less. Here's the weird part. If it's less, it's called extra brut, like only 6 grams per
Oh,
liter.
not light brute.
That's a little
Right?
backwards, but okay.
And so what you're going to get is something. Now, this is not sweet. This is not a sweet wine at all. But
No,
what
there's
you're gonna
almost
get
a,
is
there's
something
almost a
that's drier.
slight pepper note to the back of it too.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's really interesting.
Well, and with a lot of these champagnes, you'll get things like brioche. You'll get like nutty almondy kind of things. This one happens to have a little bit of like white flowers.
So, Mark, how do you say this correctly?
All right. So I'm assuming we're talking about the producer.
right.
Is from a gentleman in a V's called Chateau de Bligny.
De Bligny. Okay.
Bligny, Bligny.
Here's what it looks like, and I know we have a
I also want to point this out. This says Blanc de Blanc,
right.
which means it's a white wine made from white grapes.
Okay.
So there's, I mentioned that there are 3 grapes that make Chardonnay, that make champagne. One of them is Chardonnay. The other 2 are red grapes, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier. But this is 100% Chardonnay
Okay.
that makes this
So
wine.
when you make a champagne with the red grapes or red grapes as part of the mix, why is it still straw colored? Wouldn't that make it darker?
Okay, so and I do want to get into this further in with the rosé, but what happens is that the grapes get pressed, and no matter the color of the skin, the juice runs clear.
Okay.
So they
gotcha.
press the grapes. They don't let it sit on the skins. We'll pin that
Gotcha,
for
okay.
later. They let the juice run free, and that juice of those red grapes that go into the production of champagne is a clear grape, and so they make clear wine. You can also find, like, say, white Pinot Noir that's made in Oregon or California. You can find things like that. You can
Where
find
they
white-
also don't let it rest on the skin so
right.
it doesn't adopt the color. And usually if you're thinking about Pinot Noir, you're thinking about a lighter color
a
of
red,
red.
yes,
than,
but a red wine nonetheless.
Right, right.
Now, the alternative to the Blanc de Blanc is Blanc de Noir, a white wine made from red grapes.
Okay.
Noir being dark, the dark grapes.
So if, and I'm just asking this out of ignorance, but if they had let and I know this is made with white grapes, but if you had one that was made with red grapes, with like a Pinot Noir grape, and you allowed it to sit on the skins, would that champagne ultimately be darker in color?
Yes. So you can find rosé champagne.
I've seen that before.
And champagne is one of the only places in the world where you can actually blend colors. So yes, they will make a pink wine from that, but sometimes they'll also add red wine to it. Now, Champagne, the region of Champagne, also makes a still red wine. They're very hard to find. They're quite expensive. In fact, every time I go to Champagne, I usually bring something back from that because it's difficult to find. And because they're making red wine, still red wine from these varietals. But, you know, if you're drinking champagne, you want the bubbles, you want the...
Right, it's part of the
fun,
experience.
right,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. Sure.
So yeah, this is from Chateau de Bligny. It's the chateau's been around for
This
ages.
is not what I would call a delicate champagne either. I kind of like this in that it's got a little more punch up front than I'm used to when I like with a Veuve or like what's the other big popular one that I've had? Whatever it is, but yeah, this has got a little more punch to the front end. I
Barefoot?
really,
Is that the one you were thinking?
Good morning.
you know, it comes in that box.
Yeah, exactly. So-
When I drink my normal box of champagne.
Well, the interesting thing about the method by which champagne is made is what the same thing like you were describing earlier. They add the sugared wine, they put a crown cap on it,
Right.
and they let it sit, and that's where it ages and it gets it's called secondary fermentation.
Right.
And that's where the bubbles come through. Then they turn the bottle over. They ice the once the yeast has flown to or settled into the neck of the bottle. That's what they call riddling, where you see them kind of turn the bottles. That's moving the yeast down to the neck, and so they'll do that. They'll freeze that section. That ice plug full of yeast gets ejected. Then they put the cork in, and then they age it even longer. This is one of the reasons why champagne is
pricey.
Yeah.
Specs, $50.
$50 for the
Really?
bottle.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's I would say that's at least as good, probably better than most that I've tried in that price range.
Oh yeah.
I think it's
Well, and
really
it's
outstanding.
difficult to find champagne worth it in a region that isn't in that $50 or more
Right.
range. I've known these people for a long time. The Rapidos have been involved in the chateau since the 90s, and I've always been a big fan of these guys. And I specifically wanted to share this with you guys today. So
It's such a good bubbly.
Just as we head to break here, I'll just mention we talked about barefoot wines. This will sum up barefoot wines for you. You'll know exactly where they stand on the ladder, if you will,
Where they stand.
of wines. Yeah, when Barefoot decided to do an ad campaign, which they've done, and you've seen the commercials on television, they thought, we should get a Seinfeld character to do this for us, to be the voice and the face of Barefoot Wines on these TV commercials. So they obviously didn't go with Jerry or Elaine or Kramer or even George or even Newman.
I've got. Oh, I was going to say Newman.
It's
Newman.
Putty.
Oh,
Putty
yeah.
from
He does a lot of
Seinfeld
things.
is the spokesperson for Barefoot
Well,
Wine.
you can think of him as Joe from Family Guy.
Exactly. All right, and with those wonderful Terry
It's the
pop
same
culture
time.
references, we will take a break and be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And today about wines for the holidays. And we are enjoying some. I'm going to get back to that in just a second. But first, let me mention that our show beer sponsor for the program this week and all month of November is the Lone Pint Brewery in Magnolia, Texas. And we've been enjoying our show beers. I'm doing a Xenos Pale Ale. And so is Mark. What are
Yes.
you doing over there, Ian?
Oh, I have the Jabberwocky. I wanted to start light.
You want to start light? Yeah, okay, that's good to know.
The Jabberwocky is the double IPA, starting in at 8.5%.
So,
Good morning.
Mark Borel,
Good morning.
right.
It's not just for breakfast anymore.
That's right, and that and the beverage of mystery at 6%. We're already climbing the ladder.
12 on champagne.
Marc Borel is our wine expert here on Smoking and Toasted, and he has brought in some wines which, so far, I mean, you're batting 1,000 so far here with this
I think
this
you start
wonderful.
with champagne.
Yeah.
You're like,
I love that.
we're,
Yeah.
we're starting right up here,
Well,
buddy.
okay, so I think it's interesting that you could finish. We could have finished with this, but I wanted to enjoy it. This is selfish. I wanted to enjoy it colder.
Yes, I agree totally.
I'm okay with that.
And we
Yeah.
don't have the ability to, you know what I mean, pull
Yeah.
out a cold bottle. So, yeah, there it is.
So Mark has, for a number of years, been the wine expert and sommelier at the Rainbow Lodge, but you are now doing something different. So what can you tell us?
Well, okay, so after about 10 years.
Has it been 10 years?
Yeah,
Wow.
almost. A couple of years. So I get to travel a lot. I get to do a lot of fun things. I meet lots of winemakers. I'm in different parts of the world. And I've built these relationships with lots of people. And oftentimes friends, family, colleagues will ask me, hey, I'm traveling to this area. Do you know anybody? Can you help me with an appointment?
Where should I go?
Yeah,
Well,
sure. So a few years ago, I decided to open a travel agency that has since helped people.
And that would be called Global Gourmet Vacation.
Global Gourmet Vacations, because I'm your global gourmet, right? And the idea originally started as okay. Culinary destinations, food and wine centric
Right.
things. But not just that. I mean, I can send people to Oaxaca and drink mezcal or tequila, for
Right,
example. Or we can go up into Canada and drink ice wine. Or there's lots of different things that. Now it's morphed into something larger than that. It's typically for a higher end clientele, but for like I was saying earlier, I'm booking a lot of cruises lately. This is a very popular thing, and often culinary focused, depending on the cruise line you go to. Because a lot of people are like, look, I want to do this, I want to do this whole cruise thing, but I want to eat really well. And so I've got some strong thoughts about that. Or they want to do an all-inclusive
resort
type thing, but they want something that has better food than and can afford it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or they want to do like a restaurant tour of Mexico City. We've done those kinds of things before. So we're having some fun with
What
it
would you possibly drink while you were there?
in Mexico City. You know what? It's
I'll wait. I'll think of something. Okay, go ahead.
It's funny. There are some decent wine bars in Mexico City.
Yeah.
A lot of them are moving toward this natural thing, which some people are into, some people aren't. But there's lots of really delicious things. I was in Paris a few weeks ago and ate tacos from this amazing, agave-based bar. So I mean, there's lots of things that you wouldn't think about, and these are the things that I know. And so a lot of people come to me for that kind of stuff.
Wow. So do you have a website or a
Yes, it's globalgourmetvacations.com.
Awesome. Globalgourmetvacations.com, spelled just like it sounds.
Just like it sounds. It's a mouthful. I know. It's a big, long thing.
I like Global Gourmet, and since Galloping Gourmet was already taken, I'm glad that you.
Yes.
I like Global.
Did he
just
get
seems,
arrested?
I don't know. Whatever happened to him?
Who knows?
When I was a kid, he used to come on after Captain Kangaroo, which I always thought was kind of a weird placement for Graham Kerr, the
well, if you're coming between Captain Kangaroo and Paul Rubens,
yeah, exactly.
It's a family show.
I don't know what happened to him though. I think he did, but no one's done movies about him like they have about Julia Child.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
And by the way, that Julia series that's on HBO Max, splendid, wonderful.
Ooh, I haven't seen it.
It's really good.
I'll look it up.
And her husband is played by, his name's not on the tip of my tongue, but he played Niles on Frasier.
Oh yeah.
David Hyde Pierce. Thank you. Yeah,
I have seen this.
It's
and
a
it
wonderful
really is
series.
good.
Yeah, it's really good. You would think, will it really be interesting enough about Julia Child for like 8 episodes? Totally is.
Interesting.
Totally is.
Interesting.
It's really good. Really good. Well, this
That's
sparkling
what I
wine
aspire
is
to. My
tremendous.
life to be interesting enough in 8 episodes.
Yeah.
I might be able to get 4, and that's about it.
On the next all new Ian. This is wonderful, though.
So here's the thing: if it comes from champagne, call it champagne.
Right. Oh, you totally would.
Absolutely,
That's
is
like making
sparkling wine.
That's like making an agave spirit in tequila. You want to call it tequila,
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
It is. I mean, yes, it is sparkling wine, like cava or prosecco or something you might find. And by the way, you should know that they make sparkling wine in other parts of the world from the méthode champenoise method, right? You can produce I think last time I was here, we had something from England.
Oh, that was wonderful.
That is made like this with the same grapes, and the same kind of production
Made
method
in England. Yeah.
You just can't call it champagne.
This, by the way, the more I drink it, the more I get almost a buttery note at the finish.
Oh,
too.
yes.
It's
Oh yeah,
so
the
good.
finish
And
is
it's
really
just
lovely.
it's so smooth and wonderful. It's just
It's the bubbles. There's
the
little dancey
bubbles.
bubbles.
the bubbles. All right, we got to take a break, and we will be back. There's more wine to taste. Plus, coming up in our next hour, a little drinking news for you, and we will taste 4 Roses too. Small batch select, or is it single barrel select? I get those confused. Small batch select. Thank you. I got it right this time. We'll be right back at Smoking a Toast. Some pretty good guitar tone there. That's our friend Rob. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Welcome back. It's Smoking a Toast, and our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Our guest is Marc Borel. We've been drinking bubbly. We're going to get to the next one in a moment. But first, during the summer in California, the state legislature passed AB 3218, a law that hopes to stop the sale of most flavored tobaccos in the state, because there's the worry about kids going into 7-Elevens and buying or APs, A&Ps, I think they call them in California.
Watermelon flavored blunts.
Right, exactly. So they passed the flavored
those
tobacco.
are legal in California. It's fine.
They had passed a flavored tobacco ban in the summer of
It's the only
2020.
thing in California that doesn't cause cancer in lab rats.
That's right. Everything in California causes cancer in
Yes.
cigarettes.
That's why I
Anyway,
live in Texas.
They'd passed this flavored tobacco ban in the summer of 2020, but the law apparently wasn't clear about how the ban would actually function. So this bill, AB 3128, was designed to clean that up, and the legislature has directed the California Attorney General's office to create a list of unflavored tobacco products. If your product is on that list, it's legal to sell it in California. If it doesn't appear on the list, it's not legal to sell it. It sounds simple, but the legislature has created a situation in which many manufacturers of unflavored cigars are effectively saying it just doesn't make sense anymore to sell cigars in California. There are two main issues. One comes down to money, although the other is a little more ominous. But basically, the amount of money and the time required to try to get your unflavored, say you release a new cigar, right? Try to get it on that list is just really, really onerous.
Oh, wow.
And so
You can't just call them and be like, hey, we got this as
yeah,
flavor.
yeah, no, you can't just add it.
Here's our list of ingredients.
right. Yeah.
Notice there are no outside flavors.
Right. Yeah. So, so the big caveat to the whole rule: if a cigar meets the definition of premium cigar, it's exempted from the product. It's exempted from the unflavored tobacco list, and also presumably the $1,000 fee that you would have to pay to get it on there. So, yeah. So it's
You
just
have to pay a
this is just
$1,000 fee.
Wow.
per brand in your line.
Are you
So if you're,
kidding me?
so imagine
just
you're
for
like
one-
you're like Monte Cristo. How many different cigars are in the Monte Cristo line? Right,
Wow.
$1,000 for each of them, just to get on the list.
Wow.
Yeah,
just to get on the list so that you're
Yeah.
eligible to be sold.
so all of which reminds me of a couple of summers ago. When I went out to California, rented a place, and was there for a month to work from California. And at a certain point, Ian came out right around the middle of my trip because we had decided we wanted to do a show or two on location in California, which we hadn't done before. And I remember calling Ian and going, can you go and buy me some cigars and bring them with you? Because they're outrageously expensive here. And Ian showed up, my savior, with just a wonderful assortment of cigars. But they cost, probably about half of what I would have had to pay.
Yeah, I never bought a single cigar when I was there because I brought enough. I gave you at least a box and a few extra.
Yes.
And then I brought enough for me to have some that weekend as well.
I had taken some with me, but I just figured, I'll buy some more while I'm there.
I brought 30-something cigars with
Yes.
me,
And I smoked them all.
Yeah, and I left the whole rest of them with you. But I can't imagine because I never even tried to buy a cigar there.
As Stevie Wonder?
Well, wait, except for when we went to the cigar lounge. We went to the Beverly Hills Cigar Lounge.
Yeah, we bought one there,
We did
sure.
our show there. We bought one there. But I
Right.
bought a cigar that would have normally cost here somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 or $8 at the time.
Yeah, and it was
I
probably-
think it was 15.
Yeah, exactly.
That is Beverly Hills, though. You did say,
Right.
so.
Well, I just
Well,
love.
that's where I want to be.
I just love
Give
that.
me.
I just love that you were willing to do that for me. And
I thought a cement pond
it's-
joke was coming.
yeah,
No, it was a Weezer reference.
Yeah,
I
that's
got
right.
it.
I just love that you were willing to do that for me, as Stevie Wonder and Dionne Warwick once said. That's what friends are for.
That's what friends
To bring you cigars, right?
That's right.
That's right. Can we do that effect, by the way, where
yeah,
the
the little
hearts
heart
come
effect.
out?
Yes,
Hearts. That'd be great. Mark was making the heart shape for those of you listening to the audio version. Marc Borel is our resident wine expert here at Smoking and Toasting. He never steers us wrong. He's already brought us a wonderful champagne that's in the $50 range that would be great for your holiday parties.
Yep.
Now we're moving on to rosé. So let's talk rosé.
This has a very serious nose to it, by the way.
Yeah, you know what?
Oh,
It's
it really
a
does.
serious wine. So when I mention Argentina, a lot of people think, okay, Malbec, right? Malbec is a French grape. That It's a Bordeaux varietal, but it did well in Argentina. This has a lot to do with a little bug that was threatening the vines in France. So
Right.
they transplanted some vines in South America merely to perpetuate the species. But and if things went well.
Yeah, I was going to say that it was a pretty successful.
So a lot of people
experiment,
consider Malbec to be like Argentina to be the home of Malbec, specifically Mendoza, which by the way is a giant place. Mendoza is about the size of Illinois, and it's the state, right? So it's like saying California Chardonnay.
Right.
You know what
Gotcha.
I mean?
Yeah.
So you can go delve deeper within Argentina. But what we have here is a rosé from Argentina. It's and from Mendoza. This is from the Polenta family who make La Flor, which is what this is called.
Right.
It's all Malbec, and just like we were talking about in Champagne and how the grapes are pressed. Rosé is made in a very similar manner. They'll take these red grapes. Malbec is a red grape. They'll take these red grapes and squash them, and let the grapes sit on the juice or the skins.
You can taste that skin. There's a little more tannic. There's a little more astringent going on.
So
there.
I've done this here before, but I think it bears repeating. You're in the grocery store and you pop a grape in your mouth and you chew it. But as you chew it, what's left is the skins and the seeds, and your mouth turns dry and it's a little bitter, but in a good way.
Yeah.
That's tannins, and you get this from there
Yes.
because what's happening is that juice is sitting on the skins and it's steeping like coffee or tea. Right, it's staining the juice and imparting all that flavor, all those characteristics of the skins.
Right.
Now, the longer it sits, the darker it gets. This is quite a dark rosé.
It's a dark rosé. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say I've seen them a bit lighter.
And so what that means, what that's telling me, just by looking at it, is that you're seeing a good amount of that what the skins offer to the wine in this, even though it's a lighter style of wine. Yes, it's rosé and it's bright and it's kind of fruity. It's not sweet, but at the finish, like you said, you're getting a bit more of that tannic quality. You're getting a bit more body.
I want to ask you a grape question. This is not completely related to this, but I can never find these, but if I do chance across them, I love it. I've bought them in grocery stores before. It's a red grape or a purple grape, and unlike most grapes that you buy and eat, this one, when you bite into it, it has the gelatinous center with the seeds in it.
Okay.
Is that? Do you know anything about that? Like, what is it? Where can I find it? And are those the kind of grapes? Is that the grapes they make wine from? Are they like that, or are they
I can
more?
answer the last part of that question.
Okay.
That the variety of grapes that make wine, it's called Vinus vinifera, and it's not the same. It's not the same as table grapes.
Okay.
Now you can make wine with table grapes. This is you'll see some places are doing Concord wine.
Right.
But you're looking for different things with wine grapes versus table grapes, because table grapes, you want a big, plump, juicy grape, right? So you're going to water those vines. You're going to make sure that those grapes come out like with plenty of juice and plenty of everything. Whereas a lot of times with wine, you're going to restrict a little bit of the water because you want those flavors more concentrated.
That's right. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the grapes, the berries themselves are much, much smaller than you'll find.
Right.
with
I've
table
noticed
grapes,
that.
right?
Yeah.
You'll find fuller clusters.
Right. Lots and lots of little smaller
And
grapes.
it has a lot to do. So the winemaking process is really difficult. This is why I don't do it. There's tons of variables about how much you water, if you water at all, the canopy management, how much of the leaves are you pruning, in which direction are the rows facing, and how much sun is it getting? Is it getting morning sun or afternoon sun? And how cold it is in the morning? And these are a lot of different things and some of these questions are grape specific. Like there's a reason you don't find Pinot Noir or Chardonnay in Texas.
Right.
It just doesn't grow here. You find Mediterranean varietals like Malbec, like Tempranillo, like Mourvedre in Texas because of the climate, the soil, all those things make a big difference.
I read a really interesting article this last week about wine and about the popularity of various styles, and the article basically said that since the movie Sideways has come out, that Pinot Noir sales have surged and continue to be much stronger than they were before, and Merlot sales are down.
Yeah,
because there's this very specific line when in the movie where the character says, "I am not drinking effing Merlot." And he's this total like wine snob guy, but loves Pinot Noir. And apparently, the movie was so influential that it actually changed sales patterns.
You're exactly
in
right.
wine.
Things are moving now in the last 6 or 8, 10 years maybe.
Yeah.
The production of Merlot has increased, but it did two things. First of all the not so good Merlot, the people who were making Merlot just to make Merlot. they stopped making Merlot because they weren't selling it, right? But the people who were making really great
really
Merlot,
good Merlot, yeah.
or were doing a great job at it, are still making Merlot, and Merlot is one of my most favorite varietals. And here's a little interesting thing:
Yeah.
the fancy bottle that he drinks in the diner at the end of the movie,
Yeah.
is Merlot.
That's such a movie thing, right?
It's a and it's a Bordeaux. It's 100%.
Is that an Easter egg thing? They don't say anything about
Yeah,
it.
you know, it's something that people like me would pick up on. Like,
Continuity
and that's
catch.
Merlot out of a paper cup or a plastic cup. I think. I don't know.
Wow, that's so interesting. I love that. Mark, let me ask you, we have just a moment left in this segment. Ask you about inexpensive wine, cheap wine, if you will.
Okay.
If I'm a person who's like, okay, I want to find the best wine I can find that's not expensive, something that's, underpriced maybe for whatever reason, where money-wise should I start that search? Should I start it at $20 a bottle?
It depends.
Should I start
It depends on a lot of things.
because I'm looking for total value, like bang for my buck, right?
Yes. Okay. So back up and think about, okay, excuse me, what it is that you enjoy. Do you like Merlot, for example? Well, then you probably want to look in California and then go from there. If you like Syrah Grenache, then you probably want to look in southern France and then go from there. Champagne's not going to be cheap,
Right.
but you can get
You can get sparkling wines
you can
cheaper
get some
from other
quality
regions.
things from this. You can get Method Champenois sparkling from this country. That's great. Now, if you prefer something a little sweeter, then you go Prosecco. If you prefer
Right.
something a little drier, then you go Cava. And there are some deals there that my advice: experiment.
Okay.
Find something in your range.
Right.
Of something that you like. You have to discover what you like first,
Right.
what you don't like. Find something in your range and just keep tasting.
But is there a price point beneath which I'm wasting my money?
$15.
15. Okay. 15's good. So no $2 chuck, but 15.
Once you hit that shelf, it's kind of like under.
right.
Under
But
the,
there are some
Because I
exceptions.
can tell you
obviously.
that with cigars, like if you're under about $6, yeah, you probably, unless you found a real gem, it's probably not
with
worth
some
it. Right?
exceptions.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes, yeah.
But there's always those exceptions, those outliers.
But I would tell you, yeah, start around 6 and go from there. So 15 would be like
That's
a
kind
good
of
starting
what I'm
place. All right, I got it. We got to wrap up this segment, but we will be back drinking news around the corner, and we're going to taste us some whiskey coming up.
Hello.
Oh, thank you. I was a little worried because I hadn't, cleared the neck or taken off the, as a safety precaution, the plastic from this bottle. So thank you for handling that for us. And,
always looking
Ian's
out.
brave.
I've actually done this before, and
Yeah.
I feel pretty comfortable, even live and on air,
Yeah.
doing this. I
noticed-
don't try this at home.
There was no fear in your eyes.
I really wanted to put on, remember that movie, the TV show, The Fall Guy? I wanted to put on that
Yeah.
soundtrack, but
I love that. So while Ian's pouring, let me tell you about some cigars to watch for.
It's not stopping me from spilling it.
Yeah, careful there, sir. Although I don't have a dog right now, since my greyhound Gracie passed away a number of months ago, I am still a big-time dog lover. In fact, I have a tendency to support charities that benefit dogs even more than I support charities that benefit humans.
have
It's
a
just
dog, I
that's just
understand.
it's just me.
I'm going to drop my dog off with you for the weekend.
Okay, fair
There you
enough.
go.
Would see if it changes my perspective.
She is adorable, but man, try walking her.
Oh no.
I have had a special bond with every dog I've ever had, going back to the first puppy that my parents got me as a kid, which I named, by the way, Charlie Brown, because naming him Snoopy just seemed too obvious.
That's
right?
two on the nose,
I
so
love
to speak.
that.
I was kind of a weird kid.
I love that.
But as Cigar Aficionado puts it, powerful bonds call for powerful smokes, and Warped Cigars honors the sentimental attachment with Santo, a brand dedicated to the memory of owner Kyle Gellis's late Cane Corso. It is also the most full-bodied cigar that Warped has ever released, which is saying something.
That's saying something. Those
Yeah.
are pretty big.
It's on the way to retailers now. Santo's offered in 3 sizes: double Corona, which is 7x54 at $16; a Toro at $15, which is 6x52; and a 5x50 Robusto at $14.
Ooh.
They all come in 14
Pricey.
count boxes and are made in the in Nicaragua at the factory there, which which is the first for Warped. The smoke's driven by a bold blend, they say, consisting of a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and Nicaraguan fillers from Esteli, Jalapa, and Ometepe. And by the way, Aganorsa Leaf is celebrating their 25th anniversary, which was actually last year, with a special cigar that they will release early next year. But the Aganorsa Leaf Aniversario 25 Edición Limitada will begin arriving at select retail partners in January. According to the company, they delayed the launch because the cigars required extra aging. So they were rolled last year.
I'll try
They aged them,
anything.
and
I'll try anything Aganorsa Leaf, man.
yeah. This one's in one size, a Toro that's 6 1/4 by 52. The cigar consists entirely of Nicaraguan tobaccos grown on farms owned by Aganorsa, and it's intended to be medium bodied. Rather, it's made in Nicaragua at the Aganorsa Leaf family and has a suggested retail price of $29.99 each. I am very excited about this release, and I will add it to the quickly growing list of cigars I can't afford. So, yeah.
Speaking of which, I was at the Renaissance Festival yesterday.
Yeah?
And there's been an explosion. Now they used to have like one little kiosk that had some cigars. This is
Yeah?
going back 5 years. Now they have like 3 or 4 different smoke shops that have pipes and cigars.
Just like jolly old England. back in the
Just
1400s.
like jolly old England. Well, and I walked into the one closest to the meat shop because that's where we have to go because, my wife, like the first thing we do when we walk in is go to the meat shop. And I walked into the one next door to it, and they had the Plasencia Almafuerte in the Solomon
That's an expensive cigar.
and in the Octagon.
I hear that's the
They
one
had
that the
the
guy
mark-
that eats the mud likes to smoke. At.
They had them marked at $27 and $25.
Yeah.
So only a small markup, actually,
Yeah.
from what they cost at a regular store. And then they had their house brand cigars. And they had a little Robusto Maduro house brand cigar. They had marked at $30.
30 for a house brand?
For a house brand,
Wow.
no label, no nothing. It just said Maduro. And I was like, what is that thing made of?
Wow. That's
Like,
more
maybe
expensive
there's-
than an Almafuerte.
More expensive than a marked up Almafuerte.
Yeah. Wow.
Although in their defense, their actual brand cigars that they had there, not the brutal markup that they have had in years past, not
Okay.
what you'd expect.
Okay.
Like some markup, but like you go to a cigar bar markup, not go to the
Red
Renaissance
Fest, yeah.
Festival markup.
Yeah.
Because my beer was $25.
Yeah,
Right,
you would
right.
expect it to be way marked
Yeah.
up at the Renfest.
Exactly. Well,
Is it a giant beer?
something.
It was 32 ounces, but still $25 is enough to buy a 12-pack and a 6-pack.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
something-
depending on the beer, that's enough to buy like 5 tall boy 6-packs of Lone Star. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. I just wanted to mention that we wanted to taste this whiskey during this segment.
Oh, I've been
time
doing
is- Time is ticking away.
My fault.
So this you were talking about pricing. This Four Roses small batch select is only about $10 a bottle more than the regular small batch, and it's one of the reasons I thought we'd taste this on the show today. The proof is a little high. Four Roses is kind of a favorite,
Look how
even
it
though they're very
sticks to the
popular.
glass. It is oily.
What's your take on this, Ian?
Man, as soon as you take a sip, the flavor explodes, and then you could feel it just spread across the mouth.
Well, you're right
The
about
oils
that.
just pull it right across all parts of your palate,
Oh,
and there's a
wow.
little bit of heat to it. There's a little bit of cinnamon, like when I say heat, I mean more like spicy heat.
Oh, and
not-
that grows as it sits there.
and it sits there. It's so nice.
winter spices.
Winter spices,
Yeah,
even, that's
nutmeg,
nice.
cinnamon, apple pie kind of thing.
We'll talk more about this when we come back. We'll also have drinking news.
Yeah.
It's Smoking and Toasting.
I love this bar.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. It's show number 408. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And today, wine. But we took a little bourbon detour here and did some Four Roses single batch. Am I getting it right?
Single batch select.
Single batch select.
Is it-
I always get confused.
Not
I thought it
confused
was-
with single barrel.
because Four Roses
okay.
has a small batch.
Small batch.
And then they have a single
Single
barrel,
batch.
and then
And
they have a single barrel
single-
select.
yeah.
So it's easy for me to get confused. But this is the single barrel. Or I'm sorry. See, I told you I get it
Small
confused.
batch
It's
select.
a small batch select.
Yeah.
And Ian, what was your take? I know I could tell you were enjoying this, but what do you think about
So this is funny because this is a bigger whiskey. Like if you want something big and bold, this is where you're going, because this is a lot of cinnamon. This is a lot of
and big time bubble gum on the
retro
finish,
hail, on the
retro
finish.
hail.
Yeah, 100%.
Totally.
It also is not shy on the heat. You know, some whiskeys hide the heat a little bit. This one does not.
And your regular Four Roses is one of the more, I don't want to say heatless, but it's like it's something that
It's
even if you're
drinking,
it's easier drinking. Yeah, even if you're not an experienced whiskey nerd or a tater, you can enjoy your.
It's funny
your regular
because
Four Roses.
it comes in with butter and moves instantly into spicy whiskey.
Yeah, for sure.
Four Roses is one of those whiskeys that, in general, if you wanted one word, spicy. You know, and
Would this go good
it
with a
doesn't have
cigar?
to be rye to be
Big
spicy.
time.
Yeah,
Big
these
time.
go great with cigars because they have enough character usually to stand up to any bold cigars. As a matter of fact, I'd be careful if you're drinking this about going for something too light cigar wise.
Right, you need something with a little heft.
It'll beat it up a little bit.
Mark, you mentioned before the show when I was telling you we were going to sample Four Roses today. You mentioned that there are some people who kind of bag on Four Roses as a band.
Yeah,
as
you
a
know-
brand, rather. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's
Nickelback.
any of these larger brands that has accessibility and
Right,
lots
you
of
can
different
buy them pretty
places.
much anywhere.
You know, whiskey has become one of those things that the more exclusive, the better it is, which we all know is not the case.
Yeah.
But I've always been a fan of these guys. I thought they've done a really, really great job. This is delicious.
You know, anytime you have something that's your own, whether it's a band you discovered that's kind of underground,
Yeah.
or whatever, that's always a little bit special. And when it hits mainstream, or if it is mainstream, then it can feel a little sold out. But the truth is, there's a reason it got that popular.
Right. Because
You
it was
know?
good enough to get that
Because it's
popular.
good. you
Yeah.
know?
Well,
And now I'm not talking about Bud Light. The reason that got popular is because they just kept shoving commercials down everybody's throats.
that's just marketing. Yeah.
Right.
But I will say this. I've always felt this way about music, and that is like what you like.
Yeah.
Like, who
Yeah,
cares
yeah,
whether, you know, if you like, I'm trying to think of the most disgusting thing.
startles
If you
people?
like Creed, you know what?
Thank you for saying that is the most disgusting. Yes, that's-
I
what
think
startles
you're an
people?
idiot, but like what you like. If
Oh, you
if
can
it
say what
works
you
for
want about Creed, but that guy's guitar
Nope.
tone is always impeccable.
All right, well,
It's so good.
All right, but you know,
I only bring-
I'll give you Alter Bridge for that or something. But
right, thank you. But I only bring Creed up because YouTube seems determined to stuff Creed down my throat in my feed. I don't understand it.
I got one for you on that, but I always get people asking me, like, you know, because I teach guitar, so I get kids asking all the time, teach them Taylor Swift. So then the parents like, what do you think about Taylor Swift? I'm like, she is freaking brilliant.
Yes, she is.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she is.
She's an absolute American icon,
And she's
I'm
a force
fan.
of nature,
Yes.
and I'm a fan.
100%. And they're
I'm a
always
fan,
super
too.
surprised by it.
Wow.
I'm like,
did you also get a Taylor Swift pillow like my friend did for her?
no,
No,
but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't, because
but
this is
let
the first I've heard about
But
it.
let me mention this. If you go back a couple of shows, when we did the show on Jim Heim's famous front porch with his daughter, Abby, who is from Great Heights Brewing.
Yes.
Abby is one of the most hardcore Swifties
She
that you will
loves the
ever meet. She loves her some Taylor Swift. And Abby's a sharp cookie. I'm just saying. So, all right. It's time for drinking news. We got to do this or we will never get it done in this segment. We're talking about Taylor Swift. We're talking about Scott freaking Stapp. It's like
Yeah, I'm going to need some more of that whiskey.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, here you go.
Thanks. We have more. Ian passed that over. And Mark, do you remember? I didn't ask you about this before the segment, but do you remember the line for drinking news? I had to take my gator to the vet.
Yes.
Okay, so you'll do that for us today,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen. It's time for drinking news.
Drinking news. Wait, did you earlier say that the music for this show was cheesy?
Did I
I
say
wrote
that?
this music.
Did I say that?
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. And by the way, Just for the record, nothing says cheesy like the ukulele. Just if I could point that out.
It's inherently funny because my hands are huge.
Well, your hands are bigger than the ukulele
And somehow
itself.
it fits perfect.
Yeah, and you gotta love that. Drinking News is a program, part of the program where we bring you a story from the news.
Man, look at the size of the ukulele. That thing's huge.
From the news that
A
is
ukulele in your pocket.
ostensibly true, and then we bring it to you because that's what we do here at Drinking News. It is often, but not always, about drinking, but it is always best enjoyed if you've been drinking. So I had Terry pour me a very generous pour of this Four Roses, which this should mean
Terry's
that
like, this was for the boss.
this should mean that there's no work getting done today after I'm done with the show. That's it.
This is my favorite
gonna
bar
be
ever.
great.
Terry goes, I got a few things I want to talk about in a meeting.
You're welcome, rest
I have
of
a
the
lot of time
employees.
on my hands. Maybe I should come by.
Yeah. If you think this bar is fun, wait till you do the meeting. Welcome to Drinking News. Today's edition is brought to you in part by Worm Away. Heard about brain worms and worried you might get one? Try new Worm Away.
Oh, you know what? Did you know that Malort actually is a dewormer?
Yes, exactly. That's what. That's
Like,
what
I'm not
understood.
joking. Look it up.
No, I know.
No, that's scary.
Worm Away, guaranteed to keep brain worms out and creative thoughts in. May cause headaches, backaches, inability to play video games, hair loss, rashes in unusual places, projectile vomiting, swollen testicles, explosive diarrhea, and erectile dysfunction.
Are you sure that's not Malort?
But hey, at least you won't have a brain worm. So,
Isn't that what RFK had?
yeah, he had a brain worm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's still in his brain. It died and it's still in his brain.
That's what made him leave
I'm
that,
not kidding.
leave
That makes a whole lot of
Wow.
sense.
Yeah. And
That's what made him leave the bear cut in half in Central Park.
and that's what makes him deny vaccines. But anyway, we'll move on from there. Here at Drinking News, we sometimes marvel that we live in such an amazing technological time. We've got streaming music at our fingertips, self-driving cars for the brave and adventurous, smart refrigerators that tell you when it's time to throw out that expired carton of milk that you've got all the way in the back behind the jar of pickles that's about to spawn a deadly retrovirus that will ravage the planet and leave us all drooling zombies that roam the land in search of brains to
If
munch
it's a
on.
virus that lives in pickles, man, that's pretty brutal.
I'm sorry, I got a little carried away there. I'm just really excited about season 2 of The Last of Us, which I'm told that we can expect to see in the spring of next year.
Where do you guys get time
for
to watch
real,
these
you guys.
shows?
It's the greatest show ever. But that's not important
I
right
thought
now.
that was the circus.
Here, Ian, I'm going to teach you something.
All right.
Okay, on today's show, how I get time to watch some of these TV shows. Right? It is possible to drink and watch TV at the same time.
What?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
That's what happens when you don't watch old SNL reruns like I do all the
That's
time.
right.
Maybe I need to take my because I sit outside with a.
Right? You don't have to
You
go.
sit halfway outside
Yes, I do.
with a cigar,
I sit in
and
the
so it's a
doorway.
little different situation. I sit completely outside. Maybe
Plus,
I need to put a TV
I can
out
watch
there.
on my iPad. It's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not important right now, because back to our story. For all the amazing technology at our disposal, I do sometimes get a little bit nostalgic for the old days, for simpler times and older, out-of-date tech, like VCRs. You know, the ones that used to use videotape, not a hard disk, right?
And Blink 12 all the
Yeah,
time.
back when we all had VCRs, which I refer to as the before time, there was always some great story coming out that would have been perfect for Drinking News if Drinking News had existed back then. And you know what I'm talking about. You're trying to show your neighbors the videotape at the kid's birthday party, but you accidentally put in the tape of another different kind of party where you're on screen completely naked and holding a notebook and a pencil, and they're there dressed like a school marm and keep saying you've been ignoring your studies and you are a naughty boy and you need to be spanked.
Oops.
No? Just me?
I think so.
Okay, never mind.
I think it was in one of those.
Even in our current highly advanced time, we still somehow get a story that's a little like this from time to time, where somebody sends, the wrong picture or the wrong attachment, or somebody sees your search
That's
history.
not the text I meant to send.
That happened at work one time. I remember
Yeah?
when at a major radio station, someone came in the next
Yeah.
day and they were like, "Oh, we sent the boob pic to the wrong person."
Or maybe somebody sees your search history and discovers your apparent interest in
Every once in a while, I get get a "I love you" from a friend, and then they're like, "Oh, I meant to send that to my wife," and I'm like, "Still nice to hear."
It could be that. It could be somebody sees your search history and discovers your apparent interest in Carrot Top stand-up routines.
Oh dear God!
Or what happened recently?
Comedy.
What happened recently when the makers of a line of dolls based on the new movie Wicked were responsible for a huge surge of online traffic that drove a porn site to a 12-year high in views. After mistakenly printing that porn site's URL on the side of the boxes to their Barbie-style Wicked dolls
Lovely.
instead of their own website.
Boy, I'm glad my daughter isn't into Wicked right now.
Yeah, that's right. Instead of displaying their own URL for Wicked movie,
that is Wicked.
yeah. Instead of displaying their own
there's
URL
a series of stores called Wicked, isn't there?
for wickedmovie.com, they instead sent customers to Wicked.
It took me that long to put that together. Sorry.
Yeah, there's a movie company in Van Nuys, California.
Exactly. And they have a website, and it's wicked.com that appeared on these boxes of dolls. And wicked.com, by the way, is where I was able to learn that they're very proud of their 25 years of award-winning movies. They're very proud of their recent XBiz 2023 Best Supporting Actor win by one of their stars, a person named Tommy Pistol.
Yeah.
There you go.
And they're running a Black Friday special where you can join for a whole month for just $5 so that you too can enjoy the cinematic blockbusters like Captain Marvel XXX and Spidey Pool XXX.
So I can watch Wicked for only $5 a month?
In fact, as it turns out, there are sites all over the internet. Who'd have thought? Advertising various products, projects, movies, and devices that if you were to accidentally put their URL on a box of something totally innocent.
Remember the Harry Potter
like a
vibrating
toy or a doll?
broom?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you were to put these URLs on the box of something totally innocent, like a toy or a doll, it could cause a very similar issue and perhaps even worse. And so, as a public service to you, the listener, our dedicated staff here at Drinking News, translation, me, we prepared a list of sites that you might want to stay away from should you find them printed on the box of a doll or
Did someone
another
at
kind of
least
toy.
get yelled at on Monday morning when
Yeah.
they realized that had, not been
Somebody got
proofread?
fired for that.
Yeah.
The good news here is that we've scoured the web for porn, so you don't have to. And we've prepared our findings to share with you in the form of another Drinking News Top 5 list. This would be the top 5 sites you might not want to visit should you find them printed on the box of a doll or a toy. Top 5 sites you might not want to visit. Number 5,
I'm taking notes.
wickeddoll.com. Apparently a site looking to sell things to very, very, very lonely men.
That sounds legit though. Like this is a movie called Wicked.
Number 4, the Rocky Horror Picture Show.com.
Did you say the Rocky Horror?
Yes, the Rocky Horror Picture Show.com. Number 3, you've
Hey,
got.
I was at the Renaissance Festival.
Yeah.
You mentioned that.
There was a sign, and it had a picture of a nice cottage. It said, "Don't. This is not a whorehouse. It's a whore home."
I like it. Number 3, www.you'vegotmail.com. That's MALE. You've got mail.
You've got
Not
Gmail.
Yep. Number 2, the entire site for the episodic series GameOfBones.com. And the number 1 site you might not want to visit should you find that URL printed on the box of a doll or a toy. Number 1, SaturdayNightBeaver.com.
He did it. He did it.
At least I didn't have to do it. That's the best part. Reporting live from the adult section of an old video store where I don't even want to know about the plot of this movie called The Erotic Adventures of
Why do
Pinocchio.
my feet stick to the floor?
My name is Cruz, and that is your...
Drinking news. Drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. By the way, that
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
that movie, the Erotic Adventures of Pinocchio, that was an actual real porno movie.
Wow.
Tell me a lie. Tell me the truth.
No,
Tell me a lie. Tell me the truth.
I mean, there's so many places you could go with that.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
exactly.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not making this up, if memory serves, the tagline for the movie was, "It's not his nose that grows." So there you go.
Nice.
Oh, you were correct, sir.
On that note, what was it the newscaster on The Simpsons used to do? He used to take a swig from the bottle beneath the thing, and he'd say, "Ah, sweet liquor eases the pain." We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasted. And it does, by the way. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And just before we started this segment, I thought I heard Marc Borel, our white expert, say he didn't really enjoy that. Were you talking about the Four Roses? Did you?
Oh, no. I said I really enjoyed it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I misheard. I thought, oh, we should go back and revisit this if you did not enjoy
Oh,
that.
no. I thought it was great.
Okay.
Really
All right.
did. And you mentioned bubblegum. I did get the kind of candy, but I'm almost cotton candy kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
I thought
Yeah,
it was
totally.
Really, really nice.
The cotton candy, the taste after the cotton candy kind of dissolves, and you've still got that little flavor on your tongue.
And I
Yeah,
really
there
like,
you go.
and forgive me for moving on about this, but I really like an overproofed spirit to make something that I'm going to put something sweet in. Like this, I think this would be great in old fashioned.
So it'll stand up a
Oh,
bit.
right.
Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
totally
Yeah,
stand
really
up.
would.
Yeah,
Really,
absolutely.
Really would.
I like it. Well, Mark brought 3 bottles of wine today, and we are now up to the third one. And what is this?
I forgot to ask, how much did this last one go for?
Oh, the rosé.
Under $20, also at Specs. Everything today available at Specs.
Okay.
Okay.
This the rosé under $20.
That rosé was fantastic. That was the La Flor.
Yes.
Which is Spanish for the floor.
So the really cool thing, quickly about this, is the Polenta people have been around for generations,
Yeah.
and as time goes on, it's been in the family for generations. These are 3 cousins, so it's like the children of 2 of the brothers that
cool.
have decided to do their thing, and they're making kind of like an off-label from there. That's why it's called La Flor, and
That's
it's
very good.
just really lovely.
I just took
This
my
one-
first sip of this.
This is wonderful.
I'm just
And my
nosing
first
it.
response was,
Intense.
"Great, babe."
You say grape ape.
Yeah, this is a very grape forward red wine. What is this?
Well, wine is made from grapes. And so it just works out that way.
I don't remember all the stuff you've said on the show, but I think I do remember that. Yeah.
So we're in Chianti. Chianti is a place.
Right. As with almost all like wine styles are named after the place
Europe,
that,
for sure.
that the grapes come from,
Yeah.
right?
Chianti is a place, and depending on where you go, and it's from Tuscany. So there are several regions in Tuscany that you might know, like Chianti, Brunello di Montalcino, Montepulciano. All of these come from Tuscany, but Chianti is the bread and butter of Tuscany.
Okay.
And basically, what happens is the center of Tuscany between Florence and Siena. They've over the years gotten to the point where they wanted to differentiate themselves from what was happening in southern Tuscany, where winemakers were introducing. They got tired of being all Sangiovese. That's a little secret. This is all Sangiovese. But these producers got tired of making wine with all Sangiovese. They wanted to pepper in things like Cabernet, like Merlot, these Bordelaise varietals. And that's where you get the super Tuscans. These are Tuscan wines that have extra things added to it. But
So is that what this is? A super Tuscan?
no, this comes from Chianti.
Okay.
But it comes from a place within Chianti called Chianti Classico, which is the name of the region within the center of Chianti. And it goes through a bit more rigorous rules. Like it has to be aged a certain amount. It has to.
It smells like dried fruit.
Yeah.
There's some things on the nose that I'm not quite getting, but dried fruit is a big one.
Well, and that's the thing is oftentimes in Italy they harvest the grapes a little bit later. There's in the northern part of Italy where they make Amarone, where the grapes are actually dried. They're semi-dried.
nice.
They put them out in the sun. This is not.
Maybe I'm crazy, but there's almost a kiss of licorice on this too. Like
Sangiovese is known for a it's something that has higher acid, but also a bit more tannic structure.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be tasting some of those tannins in there.
Despite that though, this is very easy drinking.
It
yeah.
is easy
It just-
drinking. I
it
just
just
have
goes
to say,
right down, you know?
It's
so
not just easy
drinking.
drinking. It has that effect, like you take a sip and then the dryness comes in after you sip.
So
And
yeah,
you're sitting there going, I have to have another sip.
so I think of Pinot Noir, which is probably the red wine my wife and I drink the most often. I think of that. One of the things I love about it is that it is easy drinking.
Yeah.
This has a very different taste to it than a Pinot Noir, but it is just as easy drinking as the Pinots that we drink on a regular basis.
Well,
Yet
and
it's still a little bit dry. You know, you didn't bring anything overly sweet today.
No. And it's partly because I prefer to have drier style of wines, and I think that the majority of the wines that are available in the market are a drier style of wine. The Frescobaldi people have been doing this for, I want to say, 30 generations,
Nice.
something like that, and they
a
have
long time.
9 different houses or wineries within the Tuscany region. This one happens to specialize in the Chianti Classico, that really special style of Chianti. All Sangiovese, which by the way is another grape that's available that can grow really well in Texas.
One of the things I love about this, and I didn't get this on either of the other ones because I don't think it's a characteristic of those. This one leaves a flavor on your lips that when you're sitting there, you just and just tongue your lips a little bit. You get this beautiful flavor that just lingers forever.
Well, and one of the things that I wanted to showcase with all 3 of these wines is how well they work with food. And this is the time of year where we're going to eat our faces off, right? And this, I think, with turkey or ham, with roast, with a lot of the things that
I'm picturing this with my mom makes a bread dressing that is
yes.
so savory.
Absolutely.
Nice.
It's
Yeah.
so good. Yes.
Because there is some fruit there, there's some acid there, and that's what helps kind of round things out.
And I feel like there's enough flavor, like there's enough like heft to this that this would be a wine that would go with a cigar very nicely.
Ooh,
You know?
okay, sure.
I really could see pairing this. And some wines are a little more delicate and they're not quite. But this manages to have enough.
What is the bottle of this
body
coming
to
in?
it.
So this is the Frescobaldi Tenuta Ferrano.
It's easy for you to say.
Yeah. Good morning. It's a 20-ish, 25.
So you brought some very affordable wines
you're-
on. These are
Under $100 or $100 ish for the entire range.
That's right.
wow.
This is amazing.
I'm liking this. That's $100 of very, very good wine.
Worth the price.
Worth the price. Mark,
Happy.
thank you so much
Happy to
for
help,
joining
yeah.
us on today's show.
Cheers.
We always love having you on. Happy holidays. And we'll be talking wines actually again next week as Travis Thompson will be joining us from Vino Vera Wines on the program. So we're looking forward to a couple of wine shows in a row. But happy holidays to all of you. And cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
You don't wanna take a chance.